thing that liberals need to acknowledge is that it has become an absolute automatic reaction for you guys to blame Trump for everything. It doesn't matter what it is. There are no limits anymore as to what liberals will blame Trump for. They could stub their toe and that could be Trump's fault. Their kid doesn't get their homework done and fails a class. That is Trump's fault. Their coffee is cold in the morning. That is Trump's fault. Like, there's nothing that you guys will not blame on this man, which is why you have zero credibility for sounding the alarm on things that perhaps we should be upset about or maybe worried about or concerned about. Because when you're concerned or worried or upset or triggered by literally everything, then that sends the signal to us that you're not looking for actual issues. Everything is an issue. And therefore, nothing is. Like, it's just his existence that's the problem. So I saw a couple of examples on my TikTok feed over the last week, and I just had to shake my head. And it's the boy who cried wolf scenario. If you keep crying wolf and there's no wolf, then we're not going to believe you if there's actually a situation that maybe we need to have a conversation about. We're just going to look at you and say, everything is a wolf in your eyes, and therefore the wolf really doesn't exist. And you are panicked and trying to get other people to panic about things that aren't really there. You have zero credibility. So I want to share these videos with you guys. You can let me know what you think. We're going to react to them. But before we get too much further, I am Outspoken Samantha. I appreciate you being here. Please do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button on this video and subscribe to my channel. I appreciate you so much for doing both of those things. So the first video that I wanted to react to is this mom right here. Now, what gave it away that this was probably going to turn into something ridiculous is that she started out by saying something to the effect of, I'm literally shaking. I had to put my phone down to record this video. But this is a manipulation tactic by the left because if they're panicked, you should be panicked as well. So I just want to see the way that she starts out this video, and then we'll go from there.
Actually, for the first time in a while, had to put my phone down to make a video because I was starting to shake as I began to record.
So she talks about how she's got these twin boys, 14 years old, that are going into high school this year. I can relate. I have a 14-year-old that started high school this year as well. It's a little nerve-wracking to say the least. She gets their backpacks out. She hands the forms or the folders to her husband, and he starts going through the paperwork. At the beginning of every school year, no matter where your kids are going, you get a bunch of stuff that you got to sign, you got to go through, and etc. Her husband's going through the folder and pulls out this form and says, "What's this?" And she's cooking dinner. She comes over to look at what it is. And they're both really confused by what they see. And she starts reading through this form, and that is what causes her to get really angry. And as one does, as a normal reaction, the first thing that you want to do is get on TikTok and record yourself in your rage before you've had a chance to evaluate and understand if this is something that you should truly be angry about. Let's get angry and publicize it first and cause panic and get other people to be outraged as well. And then we'll look into it later to see if our rage was actually an informed and necessary reaction.
It says, to parents and guardians, a new law has been passed that all school districts must release to military recruiters the name, address, and phone number of all junior and senior students. The new law states that schools will request parents and guardians to complete a form indicating whether they grant permission for this information to be released to the military. The notification advises that in the event that they fail to complete and return this form to school, all requests for this information by the military will be honored. In order for your request to be honored, please complete and fill out the form below and return it to the guidance office at Greenfield High School only if you would like your student to be opted out. Here you go. No, you're not signing anything that has anything to do with our minors, children's information and the US military under this regime.
So she's basically under the impression that this is an order from the dictator in the White House. And again, she decided to get angry about it, post about it first with her anger to make sure everybody else got angry before looking into what this was actually about. So here's the thing. I know that everybody likes to say Google is free, Google is your friend, use Google, do your research. Google is great. But you know what I like even more these days are things like ChatGPT and Grok. And I know that these are not a substitute for digging into things, but they give a pretty good overview as to what's going on. And then, yes, definitely read through the articles that they provide and the sources that they cite, but it gives you an idea at least. And it's so easy to use. And I'm not saying that ChatGPT is perfect by any means. I've definitely caught some things that were incorrect that they've said, but overall, it's a great place to start. So, this thing that she's talking about, this form, asking your kids for their information for schools to send it to the military or whatever, or you can opt out. That's not a new thing. This was part of a law that was part of the No Child Left Behind Act of 2001. So this is something that has been going on for almost 25 years. And it was carried forward by the Every Student Succeeds Act of 2015. None of these things had anything to do with Trump. It requires any local educational agency or the LEA receiving ESEA funds to give military recruiters on request the names, addresses, and telephone listings of secondary students unless the student/parent opts out. It also requires LEAs to give recruiters the same access they give colleges or employers. I also asked ChatGPT if anything had changed in the last 12 months that specifically did have anything to do with Trump, because I do want to know, did the Trump administration have anything to do with this? Is there something more that we need to be aware of? It says there have been notable updates enacted as of December 23rd, 2024. So that was under the Biden administration. It was under the National Defense Authorization Act. Congress added ESEA 8528A, which requires LEAs to give military recruiters the same physical access to high school campuses for recruiting 17-year-olds and older that they give colleges/employers. It also directs DoD to monitor and report LEA compliance annually. The provision becomes effective 1 year after uh, enactment, so December 23rd, 2025. So this is stuff that was enacted under a Defense Act signed into law by the Biden administration. And I'm not criticizing the Biden administration. I, for one, understand why the military would want access to young boys in this country as they get older, whether it be for recruiting materials or for the draft. Heaven forbid that we ever need to enact the draft. But it makes sense. But they're also, schools are required to give families the opportunity to opt out. And schools across the country, districts across the country, implement that law in different ways. It could be just part of the school student handbook. It could be a form that they get sent home. In some way, they give you the opportunity to opt out. And this woman didn't consider the fact that her kids are going into high school, which is why she has never seen this form before. Instead, she just assumed that it was new because of the Trump administration, because Trump is a dictator, and therefore everything that she is unfamiliar with and that gives her pause or gives her concern must be because he's evil and wants to take control of our young men and doesn't care about their lives or whatever is going on in her brain. It baffles me that people do this because I hear a lot of alarming stuff online every single day. I try to do my best to look into it and at least get an overall idea of what is really going on so that I don't pull crap like this. I'm not perfect. I have definitely put things online before where I'm like, that wasn't the best way to phrase that, or my point didn't come across the way that I wanted to, and I make mistakes. But I try really hard not to post things with an initial reaction, especially if I'm angry or frustrated or whatever, because I want to make sure that if I'm angry about something, that is justified. and people need to be more responsible with that. So I will link a couple of these things in the description box below if you want to look into it. But I did notice that this woman posted a video a couple days later saying that she was a little bit too emotional in that video and that ultimately we all just want what's best for our kids. So it's like, that's fine. But what I noticed about this particular video is that there were thousands of views, thousands of views, thousands of comments. So the damage is done when we put stuff out like this. The panic has been created. You've furthered the division and the hostile narrative towards somebody unnecessarily. Her apology video or her video where she's like, I should have looked into it a little more. I mean, she still had some reservations and some concerns, but that video, a couple of hundred views, couple, not nearly as many comments. And it's like the damage is already done. People aren't going to hear your apology or get some further context or decompress with you. They're going to stay on that wave of rage that you've just helped create. Let's look at one more really quick. So, this is one from a woman who had an experience in a doctor's office with her young daughter. And I guess both of these videos I can relate to because the age groups that they're referring to are something that I'm experiencing personally because I have a daughter that's close to her daughter's age that she talks about here. And she specifically does not talk about politics, but it's the comment section that definitely tried to drive her in that direction. So she took her daughter to the doctor's office and she's concerned about some of the questions that the doctor is asking. So let's hear what she has to say.
Odd interaction at an urgent care with my 8-year-old daughter. And I can't tell if I'm overreacting because she's my oldest daughter. So I'm not sure if this line of questioning is normal. And also, I'm like hypersensitive to what's going on in this country. So I take her there. She has an ear infection. I did the save my spot. So we had the first appointment at 8 a.m., registered online. I get there and they say you have to answer some questions on a kiosk. So I do. And one of the questions is, has she started her period? So I think that's kind of strange. She's 8, but I mean, I guess it happens. So, I say no, move along. And then we get back into the exam room, and the nurse or the medical assistant, I'm not sure what she was, that was checking us in, again asked me if she had started her period. And I looked at her and I said, what? And then she looks at my daughter, my 8-year-old, and says, what was the date of your last period? And my 8-year-old looks at me and goes, Mommy, what is that? Because she just turned 8 and I haven't had that conversation with her yet. And so I said something to the doctor, and the doctor was like super nice, and we'd actually seen her before. And I said, it's kind of weird that they were asking my 8-year-old that. And she said, when was the last time you were here? And I said, I'm not sure. It's been a while. And she looks at the computer where her chart is, and she said, oh, you brought her here for an ear infection in January. And I was just like, okay. And she said, well, we didn't have to ask it then. So did they not ask me in January because she was only 7.5 then? Or because now they're being forced to ask this question of all young girls?
The daughter, like I said, about the same age as this woman's daughter, a little bit older. I don't remember if this question has been asked, but what I am aware of is one, that little girls are growing up physically and mentally a lot faster than they used to. So this question would not surprise me at all. 8 is young, but it's not unheard of. So it makes sense. And of course, every doctor's office is probably going to handle this question differently. It is what it is. It wasn't the fact that she was concerned about the questions that I thought that was revealing. It was the comment section. This person says it's a part of the new administration, just refused to answer. This person says they're asking since January 20th because blessed be the fruit under his eye, which is a Handmaid's Tale reference. This other comment says they are tracking the kid's cycle, and if they can get PG pregnant, the vice president doesn't want girls going to different states. He said that many times. Yes, it's because she's a girl in the Trump administration, not because she's 8. This is being asked to all women and young girls. Welcome to our new world. Another one says this is the Handmaid's Tale. This last one says that's not odd. That's not odd. That's terrifying. We all need to grab our daughters and granddaughters and leave. This is becoming too close to Gilead. Another Handmaid's Tale reference if you're not familiar. So again, panic, panic, panic. I took a little trip over to Chat GPT just again to ask, just to get a basic outline. Is this something that's new? Is it something that has come from this administration? So my question is it new for doctors' offices to ask if 8-year-old girls have started their period? They said it's not new, but it's becoming more common for pediatricians and family doctors to ask parents and sometimes children directly, depending on the age, about puberty milestones, including whether a girl has started her period as part of routine well child visits. And here's why. Medical guideline standard. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends doctors track growth and development, including signs of puberty beginning in late childhood. Normal puberty range is puberty can begin anywhere from 8 to 13 years old in girls. Asking at age 8 helps identify whether development is happening earlier than expected or is delayed. Baseline health info, knowing when menstruation starts, helps doctors understand growth, bone development, hormonal health, and whether there may be underlying medical concerns. Trend toward earlier puberty. Research shows in recent decades, girls in the US have been entering puberty earlier on average, so doctors are more proactive about screening. So, and I asked, does it have anything to do with new guidelines coming from the Trump administration? It says no. Asking whether an 8-year-old girl has started her period is not a new practice originating from the Trump administration or any recent political directive. I asked, so the directives for these questions are coming from the American Academy of Pediatrics. It said yes, exactly. So this is coming from a medical organization that has noticed a trend of young girls, like I said, growing up faster physically and trying to see what is happening here. I do feel like these questions can be invasive. Unfortunately, we're having to have conversations with our daughters a lot younger than we used to. But the whole point is this is the immediate reaction to blame Trump is exhausting. If I were in that situation and had concerns, and yes, she did ask the doctor, but I would ask the question, is this a new standard? Is this something that happens when they're 8? Is there a reason she wasn't asked a year ago when we were here? Like, what is going on? Is this something that I can expect in the future? I ask a lot of questions. And a lot of times I will even start a question by saying, I don't mean to be stupid, but I really just want to know because I don't know if it's common knowledge. I don't know if I've missed something, but it's important to ask questions and not jump online and immediately start to foster panic in people and try to fuel that rage because clearly people are looking for any excuse to blame the right, to blame Trump, to blame Trump supporters for everything. And you have to look at all the issues that they're complaining about and wonder how many of them truly have any merit to them. Because if you jump in, you add your own rage to it, then you can't blame Trump for the one that is as being the one that's causing division. You're causing division. You're not even bothering to find out if there is a problem. You don't seem to care if there is a problem. It's almost like you want the problem to exist so that you can continue hating people that you don't even know if you have a basis to hate. And as I said, I'm not saying that Chat GPT is the be all and the end all. Look into the resources that it provides. But there's absolutely no reason to spread panic the way that we do, to be so irresponsible with it. We're not perfect. We're going to put things out there that might give people the wrong idea, that might be said the wrong way. But your reaction to those things is under your control. Should I be panicked about this? Should I be upset about it? Let me find out if there is something to be worried about. Look into it and then decide what your reaction should be, or if your initial reaction was correct or not. That's all I'm saying. I know this ended up being a little bit of a rant. I appreciate you so much for being here. I would love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments below. Please again, be sure to hit the like button on this video and subscribe to my channel. Keep it real, guys, and I will see you in the next one.